guns and fled the crime scene of new penthouses next to tents in the street. How do I steer my early 30s before I shipwreck, before I'm 40? Ain't it a shame what we choose to ignore? What kind of monsters did our parents vote for? Lately I feel like I'm in Puppet Vichy France, trying to teach the devil how to dance. To these sing-alongs, the siren songs, to ooze, to ahs, to big applause. With all of my anger I scream and shout, America, I love you, but you're freaking me out. Oh, whoa, oh, 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 driving through the Bible Belt, billboards claiming how Jesus failed. Oh, how his words confuse themselves with cranks for Christians in powerful positions. I've always felt like other proper circumstance, just cover for the devil to dance. To these sing-alongs, the siren songs, to ooze, to ahs, to big applause. With all of my anger I scream and shout, America, I love you, but you're freaking me out. America, you're freaking me out. With all my anger I shout, can't you recognize truth from clever lies? And they sing alongs, the siren songs, to ooze, to ahs, to big applause. With all of my anger I scream and shout, America, I love you, but you're freaking me out. To be sing-alongs, the siren songs, to ooze, to ahs, to big applause. With all of my anger I scream and shout, America, I love you, but you're freaking me out. Oh, 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 thank you so much. lost in a picture frame, the way our bodies used to behave, the way they smiled in the moment, before they permanently froze. But that was the old me and you, when we were both lookers. Lost in a picture frame, the way my body used to behave, the way I smiled in the moment, but for a permanent froze. But that was the old me. I was such a looker in the 80s. You little Kerouac, always running out deed and sound, always waiting on a freight train, always looking for a story to tell. But that was the old you. You were such a looker in the 80s. We were both lookers, sha-la-la-la, Jersey girls who always total heartbreakers. Julie from the Wonder Bar, still wonder where you are. 'Cause I know the old you, and you know the old me. I was certain that I'd find her in the back of the diner, in a cloud full of nicotine, in a teenage memory that I'll hold till eternity. Yeah, future ain't coming for it. Yeah, we were both lookers, sha-la-la-la, Jersey girls who always total heartbreakers. Julie from the Wonder Bar, still wonder where you are. Sha-la-la-la, Jersey girls who always total heartbreakers. Julie from the Wonder Bar, still wonder where you are. 'Cause I know the old you, you know the old me, when we were brothers. In a 5x8, black and white, on the nightstand of my mind, from a time I hardly recognize. Sha-la-la-la, Jersey girls who always total heartbreakers. Julie from the Wonder Bar, still wonder where you are. Sha-la-la-la, Jersey girls who always total heartbreakers. Julie from the Wonder Bar, still wonder where you are. 'Cause I know the old you, you know the old me, when we were both lookers. Oh, thank you so much. All right, thank you so very much. If you told us a week ago that we would be doing this today, I would have been like, no way, this is incredible. Thank you so much for coming. You see, a week ago we were in Europe, and we ran into a lot of our friends over there that we have known for a decade, and people who enjoy our band, fucking fans of the band. And the question that kind of existed the entire time that came to us was, Jesus, what the hell is going on over there? And at first we knew it was coming, but one thing we did say is, you know, it makes good TV for you guys, but it's, you know, a mess for us, as it was for them, as our favorite tariffs and those things started to roll through, and people became upset and a little bit of resentment. But they were very, very kind to us and very, very open, and we tried to relay the message to them as best we could that the United States is not full of people who are afraid. It's full of people who work from love, and that's showing here today. So thank you guys so much for coming to this. This song's about when we were younger and we went to Europe and we caused too much trouble. It's called Thick as Thieves. place ain't the same without you around. But I'll wait for you, babe. Take as long as you need to take, 'cause I'll be fine on my own. Count down the days to come home. I've so much to tell you. Please come back to Philadelphia. This place ain't the same without you around. And so I'm able to change. All my friends keep asking for you. Thank you so much. It truly is an honor to be here to open for Senator Sanders. That's a wild thing we get to say. We can't thank him and everybody a part of his organization for having us. Bernie has been fighting for the working class his entire life. I think we can all agree. Most politicians are kind of full of garbage, but Bernie has been doing the right thing his entire life. And it feels really good to be up here and to fight this with him.
Someone who's in love with someone else. For years I've kept it to myself, pretending we are picture perfect, but I barely got my shit together, cracking under little pressure. I'm afraid I'm not the one you want is someone else. They say hope is a dangerous little thing to keep finding out the hard way what tomorrow never brings. They say hope is a dangerous little thing to keep finding out the hard way what tomorrow never brings. Never brings. I passed the restaurant burned to the ground in a dollar store with a burned out egg. And I'm thinking and you throw away the bloodshot, close my eyes, so my cover won't be compromised. I'm afraid I'm not the one you want is someone else. To say hope is a dangerous little thing to keep finding out the hard way what tomorrow never brings. They say hope is a dangerous little thing to keep finding out the hard way what tomorrow never brings. Never brings. Well, sometimes I wanna blow up my life and become someone else. Yeah. Sometimes I wanna blow up my life and become someone else. Yeah. Sometimes I wanna blow up my life and become someone else. Yeah. Sometimes I wanna blow up my life and become someone else. Yeah. They say hope is a dangerous little thing to keep finding out the hard way when tomorrow never brings. They say hope is a dangerous little thing to keep finding out the hard way when tomorrow never brings. They say hope is a dangerous little thing to keep finding out the hard way what tomorrow never brings. Thank you so much. We have a couple songs left for you. Like every other American, for getting drunk on the back of a Lions Club, waiting for the shitty bands to finish up. Some kids played hacky sack, while the others just got high. not hard to fall for a waitress. When you both smoke the same cigarettes. You get seated at diners and lovers. You get the check as friends for the better. Carve your names into the apocalypse just to read them when you get old enough to know that happiness is just a moment. I'm marching up to your gates today to throw my lonely soul away. I don't need it, you can take it back. I'm marching up to your gates today to throw my lonely soul away. I don't need it, you can take it back. Oh, and they will make examples out of us, like when they caught you in the CVS parking lot. But I fed the liars, I fed the liars, I fed the liars. Everything I got in my cabinet brain of canned thoughts. It was everything I got, everything I got in my cabinet brain, in my cabinet brain. I'm marching up to your gates today to throw my lonely soul away. I don't need it, you can take me back. I'm marching up to your gates today to throw my lonely soul away. I don't need it, you can take it back. Yeah, I'm marching up to your gates today to throw my lonely soul away. I don't need it, you can take it back. Thank you! Oh man, we cannot thank you enough. We can't thank our crew enough for flying in and coming all over to do this with us for fucking freaky. Please give it up for them. Please give it up for Augusta and Matt from Gladdy. We met Augusta when we moved to Philadelphia in 2008. For all of you who don't know, we grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, right up the turnpike. And we moved to Philadelphia in the summer of 2008. And then in the fall of 2008, the housing crisis happened and spiraled us into a global recession that hit even harder in 2011. And at that time, we started to tour the country. And we saw what happened to the country. And many of those ripple effects have carried out and put us in the situation that we are in today. We saw what the fucking opioid crisis did to our peers in the music industry. We saw what happened to our friends who stayed home as everything closed. And we didn't get anything from it. But the entire time, there was one voice that was constant and one gleaming glimmer of hope for us, and that was fucking Senator Bernie Sanders. So please, thank you and congratulate yourselves and thank him for coming here and his volunteers. much. We are the Men Singers. We have one song left for you. It's been an honor to play here. Thank you, Bernie Sanders, so much for having us and for everything that you do. This song is called After the Party.
Yes, I would really love to stick around. Oh yeah.
Check. Hey, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Check.
Thank you all for joining us to show the oligarchy that we're not alone and what they're doing is not okay to our country. And don't worry, they're taking notice. Please join me in welcoming to the stage a formidable woman who has always stood tall for the Lehigh Valley, even if she needs a stool to speak at the podium today. Friends, put your hands together for former Congresswoman from Pennsylvania's 7th District, Susan Wild.
Hey there! Hi! Hi, everybody! Thank you. I was told to keep my remarks short, so let's not clap any longer because I want to get through them all so that you can get to the main event. But hello, Lehigh Valley. Are we ready for burning? You know, when I first came to Congress, I was determined to make sure that this area, this community, was on the radar of all of the national folks. And guess what, people? We are on their radar. Bernie is in the house. And let me just say, my very good friend and colleague, Chris Deluzio, Congressman from Pennsylvania 17, he's here too. You'll be hearing from him later, but let me say this. Keep your eye on Chris. He is a rising star in the Democratic Party. I have always said that this community is a microcosm of the rest of the country. And you know what that means? Just like average Americans, we are a population made up of young people who want an affordable education and good opportunities, working families who are trying to make ends meet, and seniors who deserve to retire with dignity. But right now, we are being governed by an oligarchy that does not care about the vast majority of Americans like us. By the way, anybody here who doesn't know what an oligarchy is? You all know what it is. Of course you do. Every one of us deserves quality health care. Every single one of us. Every single one of us should have health care as a basic human right. Here we are in a community with outstanding hospitals and incredible physicians and all kinds of medical professionals, and yet still too many people here can't afford to get that great medical care. Why? Because they can't afford their damn insurance premiums or deductibles if they happen to have insurance. Because the co-pays are too high. Because the fear of surprise medical bills is real. They are afraid to take their kids to the doctor or to get routine testing themselves for fear that something expensive will turn up. That has got to end. Universal health care needs to be the law of this land. And by the way, I was always proud from the first month I got to Congress to be a co-sponsor of Medicare for All. And I bet you a lot of you didn't even know that. And we deserve quality public education, the right for workers to organize, the right to have a roof over your head without being gouged, and the right to feed your family quality, healthy, affordable food. And guess what? These are not new or radical concepts. But here's what is kind of new. We are seeing people all over this country, regardless of political affiliation, clamoring for the very policies that Bernie Sanders has been fighting for years. It's time for us to take back our country, and it is time for this country to have an agenda that helps all of us. And with that, it is now my privilege to introduce a woman who has been fighting for the agenda as a community activist for years, Enid Santiago.
Who's here to see Bernie? Hi everyone, my name is Enid Santiago. I'm a citizen of the city of Allentown, raised right here in Bethlehem. I'm just going to read you a really quick glimpse of my story and why I'm here today. Pretty sure many of you are going to be living similar stories, and we have to be heard. In September 2023, I was awarded full custody of my 4 beautiful nieces, a 1-year-old and 6-month-old triplets. That day changed everything. I knew everything was going to change, but I never expected to find out how broken our system really was. The babies were born premature. They faced several medical issues, chronic asthma, repeated hospitalizations, developmental delays. Each child depends on 5 medications daily, costing over $1,000 a month. Right now, that is covered by Medicaid. Exactly. That's over $3,000 a month for 3 babies to breathe. Yet this administration and its billionaire backers continue to push codes to Medicaid. How are we pushing codes to Medicaid? Child care and support services. Congressional Republicans have proposed slashing $880 billion. Let that sink in. That includes Ryan McKenzie, right here in the Lehigh Valley. Boo, that's right. If that happens, we lose access to life-saving care. Without Medicaid, I can't afford their medicine, special visits, therapy. Their lives will literally be in stake. I didn't choose this life. I chose compassion and empathy. I gave up my career to care for 4 babies. I now work 2 part-time jobs with flexible hours and minimum pay. Not by choice, but because our policies punish caregivers, especially caregivers of color. Every day I wake up afraid, turning on the news and finding out that we're losing Medicaid, child care, the ability to meet my girls' special needs. But I will not be silent as you're finding out. We must demand a government that puts people over profit. We cannot be led by billionaires. Caregivers are essential. Families like mine deserve support, not just survival. Support local groups like selfreentry.org. Lehigh Valley stands up. Make the road. Run for public office. Raise your voice. Fuck ICE. Mi gente latina, aquí estamos. Tenemos que unirnos para sobrevivir. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. We gotta stick together or we're never gonna get through the next 3.5 years. Thank you, everyone. My name is Anit Santiago. And now I am going to introduce Brian Taylor, Secretary and Treasurer for Teamster Local 773. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Who's excited? I'd like to tell you a story, a success story, a feel-good story about a boy who grew up poor, but because of a hard-working father who loved his family and was willing to seize the American dream when the opportunity presented itself, was able to change his family's future. That boy is me. My name is Brian Taylor, and I'm the son of Larry Taylor, a man who grew up as a sharecropper on a little farm in Kentucky. My father moved to Pennsylvania when he was 16 years old with his mother after my grandparents divorced. By all rights, he was expected to go nowhere and be nothing. He was born into poverty, had extremely limited resources. My father quit school in the 10th grade, and like most poor, uneducated people, he worked job after job trying to provide for my brother and I as we lived in a trailer in Kutztown. After my father lost his job in 1989, which turned out to be a hidden blessing, my father got a job with Yellow Freight driving truck. You see, Yellow Freight was represented by the Teamsters Union, and the Teamsters made sure that the employees of Yellow Freight were well compensated, had good quality health care, and a pension to retire with. Now this is where my father and hero was able to change our future. It wasn't easy. He spent 20 years at Yellow Freight working hard, driving long hours, and then waiting on the side of a bed in a hotel room to get a call to tell him where he would be going next. But he did it. And within 10 years, he went from owning a trailer on 1/10 of an acre in Kutztown to owning 7 single-family homes. After another 10 years of hard work, he sold those homes and invested the money wisely, and now has over $1 million to his name. As a result of my father's example and the opportunity that was created from his sacrifice, I tried to follow in his footsteps. I got a job at UPS Freight driving truck, but at that time, they weren't represented by a union. I contacted Teamster Local 773, and with their help, we started a campaign to organize UPS Freight in Bethlehem. We won that organizing campaign and were successful in getting a good contract that allowed me to buy a home and raise my own family. Since that time, the Lord has blessed me, and I am now the Secretary Treasurer and organizer of Teamster Local 773. So why have I chosen to tell you this story? The reason is because both myself and my father before me were able to achieve the American dream, where if you had the desire and were willing to work hard, you would have the opportunity to make something of yourself and change your future. Unfortunately, that is becoming increasingly more difficult. The right wing wants an army of mindless slaves to work for big mega corporations, making the rich richer, while the rest of us exist only to serve them and the elite. Once again, we are coming to a time in our history where there will be a vast separation of the classes, and you will have the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots. There will be no middle class, and make no mistake about it, the right-wing elite want that. Just recently, Nestle Purina Pet Care, one of the locations that Teamster Local 773 represents, went on strike for over 6 weeks. That corporate mega giant did everything they could to prevent paying those employees a fair wage and benefits. Because those brave men and women held strong and refused to be bullied by Nestle, we were able to secure them the best contract they ever had, including good wage increases, increases to their pension, and over 50 improvements to their contract. I applaud Senator Sanders for having the courage and the morals to stand up for unions and the working class, the men and women that make this country great when no other national politician is willing to do so the way he does it. And so I hope that every politician in this country is listening and following his example. If you are in a union or a member of a working class, then you have no greater friend than Senator Bernie Sanders, and I hope you will champion him as he continues to fight for you. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Tim Herzog, shop chairman for the United Auto Workers, Local 677.
Good afternoon, Lehigh. My name is Tim Herzog. I'm the shop chairman of UAW Local 677. Thank you. I'm extremely honored to be here. Thank you, Congressman Deluzio and Senator Bernie Sanders. Allentown is a proud UAW town. It's home to Mack Trucks Local 677 and has been since the 1930s. Everyone in the Lehigh Valley knows the home of Mack, and for decades, workers have proudly built Mack Trucks. But more importantly, because of the union, it has built a dignified life for thousands of workers. A life where you can raise a family, own a home, take your kids to the doctor without worrying about breaking the bank, and you can retire knowing you'll be all right because you had a pension and health care that you have earned. Workers at Mack Trucks have generated billions in profits for this company for decades. But to the greedy corporation, it wasn't enough. Last year, Mack had a choice. When they were looking to expand, they could have invested right here. They could have put their money into the people who have built this company from the ground up. Instead, they chose to exploit workers in Mexico for $4 an hour. I know, right? $4. That's what they think our labor is worth. That's what they think we are worth. It didn't choose Pennsylvania. They didn't choose the Lehigh Valley. They chose stock buybacks. They chose Wall Street. They chose to send our jobs down south so executives could cash in. There we go. It isn't just a bad deal, it's a disaster. It's broken promises, shattered families, and communities left behind. And let me be clear, this didn't happen by accident. This happened because for 40 years, both parties sold us out with trade deals that helped the rich and hurt the rest. But now we see it for what it is. Right now, the billionaire class is on attack. And the answer is solidarity. They want us divided by job, by race, by region. They want us blaming each other while they laugh all the way to the bank. But when workers stand together, we have the power. When we look out for each other, we build strength. When we tell politicians to pick a side, we make change. Because we're not asking for handouts, we're demanding justice. We're demanding that Congress, Ryan McKenzie, and every other politician show us, are you with the people that build this country, or are you with the ones that bleed it dry? We're demanding that politicians stop standing with the billionaire class and start standing with us, the working class. The billionaires may look like immovable mountains, but mountains move with push. Together, we can win this fight, a fight against oligarchy, because we make the world move. Thank you for your time. Up next is Tom Sedor. He's a retiree from Bethlehem Steel, but more importantly, he's a Navy retiree. Thank you for your service, sir.
Good afternoon. My name's Tom Sedor. I'm a third-generation steelworker on both sides of my family. And also a proud United Steelworkers member, still. We're on our retiree group. I spent over 40 years in the workforce, plus the military, with a Navy vet, full enlistment, and over 30 just as a steel worker, and for decades I've been putting money into Social Security with every paycheck. So now that I'm retired, I depend on that Social Security, as well as I have a very disabled grandson who's 23 who depends on it. I depended on it. My father was killed down there and a furnace blew up. I wasn't even 10 years old, so it's not only retirees, you got to think of the youngsters too. So, and what I like about the Social Security, it's guaranteed, not like your IRA. I don't know if you've been watching the stock market the last 100 days, up and down, and ironically, this thing is looking like it's cracking. I just read yesterday, 3 of our sister plants used to be owned by Bethlehem Steel, or owned by Cliffs, Cleveland Cliffs. They announced an indefinite shutdown starting in a couple days. So I don't want to have to depend on my IRA, that's for sure. I'm a little bit worried, not a little bit, a lot worried about the Social Security with these 2 character billionaires, Donald Trump and Musk, taking a chainsaw at everything. You know, and he's destroying our country's most popular, efficient program. They're laying off thousands of Social Security workers. It's going to be hard to even find anybody to talk to in those offices. It's just terrible. And meantime, they have a lot of problems that they're laying off a bunch for the veterans. And they laid off like 8,000 healthcare workers already. So that's not good either. And then his henchmen are going around playing with our information, our data. Who knows what's going to end up with it? And getting our checks out accurately with all those less people. Who knows what's going to happen? But the answer is that we aren't Trump and Musk, who will never have to worry about retirement, are intentionally wrecking this thing so that they can get their people in there. They aren't going to come and cut Social Security. They know that's the third rail. So what they're going to do is just ruin it so that they're going to get their golfing buddies or their billionaire buddies to take it over and take big bucks off the top. Just and to be truthful, I didn't, probably not supposed to say this, but they're already doing it to Medicare by these Advantage plans. Being in the retirement group, I'm hearing a lot of negative stuff about these Advantage plans, so don't let it happen to Social Security. They're vital benefits, but and instead of, it's long past due to fix this. It's not, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, or it's very simple to take this and fix it. Everybody making less than $176,000 a year is paying it. These guys, like Musk, he stops paying it already January 1st at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, but Bernie has a bill, and I think it's long past due. It's called the Social Security Expansion Act. That would make Musk and his other billionaires into it would pay into Social Security all their income, and just like the rest of us. So, and it would use that money to increase everyone's Social Security. And together we can defeat these oligarchs that are going to try to loot our Social Security. And my closing remark is who you vote for. They're talking a lot about McKenzie. He's just going to be a rubber stamp. Already, our local, and believe it or not, 50 locals already have endorsed our next, hopefully, Congressman Lamont McClure. He's executive director of Northampton, so hopefully he makes it. Go to McClureforPA.com. Now next I'm going to be introducing another Navy vet. It seems like a nice guy, Congressman Chris Deluzio.
Black stripe, yellow paint. I hear the scared of it with the pros ain't. Soon as I hit the club, I get the moon face. Hit the pedal once, make the
All right. Bethlehem, how we doing? We fired up? All right, I'm Congressman Chris Deluzio from Western Pennsylvania. If you couldn't tell from the black and yellow, I'm from Steelers country, all right? Come on. Little Eagles fans out there? Okay. All right. Look, I represent a tough congressional district. I won it twice in 22 and 24. I will tell you, the corporate bosses, the Republican bootlicker politicians, they spent millions trying to beat me. Millions. I didn't have to behave and act like some corporate shill sellout to beat them. That is not our path back to power. The Republicans ran these ads. Oh, they'd say, oh, he's delusional. The Republicans would call me some radical lefty. They call me congressman now. You've got a new congressman here? Anybody seen him? Any town halls? Is he showing up, answering any questions? If you're afraid to hear from your constituents, this ain't the job for you. You heard from your former congresswoman, who I know Susan Wild showed up when she had this job. You're going to hear from a guy from Vermont who's showing up in a little bit. I see the solidarity out there. I'll tell you, I'm a Navy guy. We got some veterans in the crowd tonight. There we go. I fought to organize a union with the steelworkers, and I know labor's in the house tonight. We got labor here? Look, whether you're on a ship, whether you're serving in Iraq, whether you're in an organizing committee, you know the power of solidarity. You know that it doesn't matter where you're from, the color of your skin, how you pray, who you love. We are all in this thing together. You look to the person next to you, to your left and your right. Is that someone whose dignity matters to you? Is that someone whose freedom matters to you? We know the oligarchs, they want to divide us. It doesn't matter whether you're coming from the big city or a mill town, farm country or in the suburbs. We stand together. We fight for the common good. Now, we're not going to let them divide us, are we? Are we going to let them divide us? Are we going to stand together? Damn right. The oligarchs in the White House and the boardrooms, though, they know that's a power they can't buy. That's the power that you all have. And that is the power of solidarity. It's in all of us. I see it at the town halls. I see it in the streets. I see it in the picket lines. You feel that strength? That's right. And it is exactly why they want to divide us, to do what? So they can plunder our government, funnel tax giveaways to gajillionaires and huge corporations. It is reckless. Are we going to let them do it? No way. And they do it. You know this. They wrap themselves in the flag. You see their ads. They got the stars and stripes everywhere. By the way, wearing made in China MAGA hats half the time. And they try to claim they've got some monopoly on loving this country. It's not patriotic to me to try to cut and kill Social Security. It's not patriotic to me to try to kill veterans' health care in the VA. And it sure as hell wasn't patriotic to pardon January 6th rioters and cop beaters. There we go. Let them hear you. These phony patriots, they're waging a war on the American dream. They've been waging it for a long time. But I'll tell you what is patriotic: standing up as you're doing right now and fighting back. Look, I'm a 40-year-old. I'm a dad. Maybe the grays are coming soon, wherever that makes me in the world. But look, my generation and folks younger, we're the first generation of Americans since the Second World War where we don't expect to be better off than our parents. That is the American dream taken away from us. People are working longer than ever. Housing and health care is expensive. Child care is expensive. Medicine, you can't afford your lives. And I don't say the American dream just slipped away. It was stolen and ripped away from people. That out-of-control corporate power and the corrupt politicians like Trump and Musk, that's who's been taking the American dream away. Bernie and I may come from different places and have different stories, but whether you're from Vermont or the Rust Belt or anywhere else, you can see and feel that corporate power that is hurting us, that has hurt the American dream. And it's true all across Pennsylvania. I'm from Western Pennsylvania. I love where I'm from. You come with me, we'll drive along the AK Valley. You'll see what was glass manufacturing. We'll go out the Ohio River, much like here in Bethlehem. You will see the steel making and what it was that we delivered for this country. We made the steel that beat the Nazis and the fascists, that built the skyscrapers of this country. And how did they reward that hard work? They looked to find the cheapest and weakest environmental rules and worker rules. They outsourced jobs. They gutted communities like ours, looking to strip and take away our parts. You know what? Something has to matter more. That endless, reckless pursuit of profit at any cost, it is still hurting us. Here in Pennsylvania, all over the country. It's jacking up prices. It's killing small businesses. It's crushing union organizing. Something has to matter more than just profits. Our jobs, our safety, this country, our way of life. People are mad because they should be mad. We should be mad about that. And I'll be honest with you. Donald Trump understood that anger. He saw that wound in the American psyche, and what has he offered? Snake oil of hate, division, and autocracy. That's not the way forward. We're here to call out that bullshit. That is not how we go ahead. Your prescription drugs aren't costing an arm and a leg because of woke culture. That's not what hollowed out factory towns. Finding a house or buying child care is not out of reach because a trans person wants dignity and freedom in the world. That's not it. We're not going to fall for their attempts to divide us on culture wars when they've got a heel to the throats of the American people. We're not going to fall for it. It doesn't have to be like this. It really doesn't. Democrats, we used to take on the robber barons. That's what the New Deal was all about, was power for the people in this country. We broke their chokehold on our politics, and we can do it again. We still have some fight in us, don't we? Anybody here want to just roll over? Who wants to fight? I'll tell you this. When corporate power rips us off, we fight. When the American dream is under attack, we fight. When Donald Trump tramples on our Constitution, we fight. When Elon Musk tries to buy our elections, we fight. You feel that? That is your power, and we have it. We have a way forward, folks. That's the fighting spirit my party needs, to fight for hardworking people and anyone who will hurt us. And we got to make sure that people who work hard got a bigger slice of the pie, and we grow the damn pie. We can do both of these things. I will tell you something that I think we got to fight for. We got to root out this corruption in Washington. You know, I serve in the Congress. We got to ban congressional stock trading right now. You guys know it's outrageous. You're a member of Congress. You get access to sensitive information. And these folks are enriching themselves at the public's expense. We also had to get the goddamn super PAC money out of our elections. No more big corporations and billionaires buying our elections in America. No way. Look, I know you're going to hold the line. That means we got to organize, we got to get loud and stand together. When Republicans tried to rip away the Obamacare, ACA, people all over this country fought back and we held the line. I know we'll do it again when they come for Medicaid and the VA and Social Security. Let's build an economy that works for everyone. And let's start with taxing the billionaires. No more billionaire handouts, am I right? No more. And we got to have a labor movement that is strong and powerful. And I know there are union workers in the House tonight. Whether you work in a factory, behind the wheel, behind a desk, in a hospital, all hard work has dignity in this country, and we ought to respect that. And we ought to make hard work pay off. But we got to take on the villains. We know who they are. It doesn't matter if you call them oligarchs, robber barons, or corporate jagoffs. I got to bring a little Pittsburgh here. We know who they are. I know which damn side I'm on. Are you with me? Let's go. Look, I wore the uniform as a young man in my life. I was willing to risk my life for this country. And I will tell you, I see threats to our freedom right here at home. You sense them. You know them. I think we seize this moment to beat back this corporate power and the corruption, to build a more free, more just, more prosperous America, not for just some, but for all of us. And the fight that we're in, it's a righteous one. It's a fight that we gotta win. Now, there's someone here today who's been waging that righteous fight for a long time. The guy you guys came here to see. The oligarchs hate him. Oh, they really hate him. That tells you something. So I am proud to introduce a guy who doesn't need much of an introduction. Senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Lehigh Valley. This is not only a great turnout, but you are loud. I think Trump is hearing you in Mar-a-Lago. And he wants to turn down the volume. But we ain't gonna let him. Well, let me thank all of you for coming out. Let me thank the university for allowing us to use this beautiful facility. Let me thank Augusta Koch and the Messengers for their music. Let me thank Susan Wild and Enid Santiago and Brian Taylor and Tim Herzog and Harvard Cedar for their important statements. And let me thank Congressman Chris Deluzio for doing a great job in Washington and for being here today. Now, when I was in college a few years ago, they had a thing called Cliff Notes. They still have it? All right. So in case anybody has a short attention span, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes of my remarks. First, I'm going to say hello to your Congressman Ryan McKenzie. Now, we are live streaming this event, so Ryan, if you're there, hi. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what has gone on in the last terrible, frightening 100 days under Trump. And then I want to take you on a tour of what's happened, in fact, over the last 50 years and why Trump was elected president and the failures of the Democratic Party to stand up for the working class. And maybe most importantly, because we don't do this at all, I want to talk with you about a vision of where we must go as a nation. Because if there's anything I want to convey to you today is, of course, yes, we must do everything we can to defeat Trumpism, but that is not enough. We are the richest country in the history of the world. And there is no reason why every man, woman, and child in this country does not have a decent standard of living. And brothers and sisters, what I also want to say is that in this unprecedented moment in the modern history of our country and the world, we have got to think in unprecedented ways. We cannot do today what we did yesterday. And that means we need a political revolution in the deepest sense. And that sense understands I'm not Taylor Swift, in case you haven't noticed. We're not here as an entertainment show. We're not here to applaud Bernie or Chris Deluzio. We are here to transform America, and the only way we do it is by transforming ourselves. Democracy is not an entertainment activity. It's not looking at somebody else. It's not a beauty contest. It's not a concert. It is getting active and standing up for the people next to us, the people down the block, and the people across the country. So we need to be thinking of new ways. And in every part of the country, in every state, it may be a little bit different. But we got to think of new ways as to how we can be more generous, more effective, how we can bring people together to create the kind of nation that you and I know we can become. So let me begin. See, I've already gone on for 10 minutes and I'm beginning. That's what you learn when you're a U.S. Senator. By saying hello to Congressman McKenzie. And let me say this, Mr. Congressman. We are living in very difficult times. And in your district right here and all across this country, millions of working people are struggling to put food on the table. I was just in Harrisburg yesterday. We had a great rally in the evening, and earlier in the day I had some time, and the administrators were kind enough to allow me to go to a couple of schools and talk to some of the kids in Harrisburg. Beautiful kids. And one of the kids, I wanted to hear what was going on in their lives, and one of the kids gets up and says, well, I'm living with my dad now, my parents are separated, but my mom is trying to help out. She's working at 2 jobs right now, and she's looking for a 3rd job. All right? And this is what is in fact going on all over this country. 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. So I say to Congressman McKenzie, you know, and everybody in this room knows or should know, that there is what is called a reconciliation bill in Washington that will be, we think, coming to the floor of the House and Senate in the pretty near future. And what this bill in general does is it would make massive cuts, over $800 billion in Medicaid. It would make massive cuts in nutrition programs, massive cuts to housing. And all of those savings would be used to provide a $1.1 trillion tax break for the richest 1%. So my message to Congressman McKenzie is, don't vote for that terrible piece of legislation. And if you do, I have a strong suspicion you will be a 1-term member of Congress. Now, for a number of years in Vermont and around the country, I talked a lot about our nation moving toward an oligarchic form of society. And there were people who were saying, what does oligarchy mean? What is Bernie talking about? Well, thanks to Donald Trump, we now know what oligarchy is about. When Donald Trump was elected president, and I know it seems like a lot longer time ago, but it was only 100 days. When Trump was elected president, he had behind him 3 of the wealthiest people in America. You remember who those guys were? He had Elon Musk. You know Elon. And he had Mr. Bezos next to him. And he had Mr. Zuckerberg next to him. 3 wealthiest guys in America standing right behind the president. But that wasn't enough. Behind those guys, you had 13 other billionaires that Trump had nominated to become the heads of major federal agencies. You know, right here in Pennsylvania, back in 1863, at that terrible Battle of Gettysburg, where 20,000 Union soldiers were either killed or wounded. A few days later, as you all remember, President Abraham Lincoln came to the battlefield, and he looked at that terrible battlefield where just a few days ago so many people had died. And he said in so many words, what we believe in is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And what Trump has made perfectly clear, he doesn't hide it. I got to give the guy credit for that. That right now we have a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class, and we are not going to accept that. You have an obscenity in the wealthiest guy in the world, running all over Washington, D.C., firing thousands and thousands of dedicated federal employees. At a time when the Social Security Administration doesn't have enough employees right now to service the seniors, they want to throw away, they want to discharge thousands and thousands of people at the Social Security Administration. At a time when the Veterans Administration is understaffed, they want to lay off 83,000 employees at the VA. Well, I don't care if you are a Republican, Democrat, or independent. We stand with the veterans of this country. And we're not going to see a deterioration in their health care or in the benefits that they receive. But it is not just oligarchy that we are dealing with today. We are looking at an unprecedented attack on the foundations of American democracy, and under Trump, a movement toward authoritarianism. You know, the founding fathers of this country were nobody's dummies. You all recall that they had fought and led the fight against the autocratic King of England, the most powerful person on earth at that time. A guy like Trump who thought he had the divine right to rule. And what these guys did, founding fathers, they said, you know what? We see what the autocrat in England is doing, and we're going to have a constitution which provides for separation of powers. Right? You all remember that from history class? So you got an executive branch, the president, a legislative branch, Congress, Senate, and House, and a judiciary of federal courts. And the reason we have that separation of powers is precisely to prevent what Trump is trying to do today. He is usurping the powers, the appropriation powers of the United States Congress. Unbelievably, when a court decision comes down that he doesn't like, he says, we're going to impeach the judge. But it's not only Congress and the judiciary he is going after. Again, in an unprecedented way, he is going after the media. Now, this is a guy who throughout his career has leveled the most savage, vicious attacks on his opponents. Everybody is crazy. Everybody is awful. Everybody is disgusting. Everybody is terrible. And yet, when the media criticizes him, he wants to sue them and shut them down. So we say to Mr. Trump, if you can't accept criticism, get out of the political process. That's what democracy is about. And let me talk a little bit about something that the media doesn't talk about and we don't talk about in Congress at all. And that is the reality that today we have 60% of our people living paycheck to paycheck. We have more income and wealth inequality that we have ever had in the history of the country. And as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, we now have a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires in both political parties are controlling the political and legislative agenda. And I think this is an issue, whether you're a Republican, progressive, conservative, whatever you may be. Nobody thinks that American democracy is about Elon Musk contributing $270 million to elect Trump and then becoming the most important person in government. So, brothers and sisters, when we talk about the future of America and our political system, at the top of our agenda must be the need to end this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And move to public funding of elections. Now, let me tell you something which you're not going to hear much about in the corporate media, and you're not going to hear much about in the halls of Congress. And that is that today, the average American worker in real inflation accounted for dollars is earning less than he or she did 50 years ago. Now, you know why the American people are angry? They're angry because they're looking around them. They're seeing a huge increase in worker productivity. And yet all of that wealth is going to the people on top, not to the working class of this country. And we are here tonight, we're here today to say loudly and clearly that we demand an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top. And by the way, we need a Democratic Party which makes a fundamental choice. And that is, are you on the side of the working class of this country or not? There are millions of working people whose families used to vote Democratic, and they look and they say, why do we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country? Why is it that I'm working longer hours for low wages? Why is it that I can't afford health care? Why is it that I can't afford my rent or my mortgage? Why is it that I can't afford to send my kid to college? And the Democratic Party is finally going to have to say, we stand with those people. We're prepared to take on the greed of corporate America. But when we talk about the Democratic Party, it is not just domestic issues, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. It is also foreign policy as well. Donald Trump believes that Ukraine started the war with Russia. Well, Mr. Trump, get your history correct. It was Russia and that terrible dictator, Vladimir Putin, that began that war. And we will stand with democracy and not with authoritarian people all over the world. But it's not just the Ukraine. I strongly oppose Biden's continued military support to the horrific Netanyahu war against the people of Gaza. Since that war began, over 50,000 people have been killed, over 110,000 wounded, and the entire infrastructure of Gaza has been destroyed. Right now, as bad as that, and I want you to hear this because this is important, as bad as what Biden has did and what Trump is now doing, Trump has another idea, which is so crazy, so unimaginable that you can't really believe they are seriously talking about it. But what they are talking about today is forcibly expelling 2.2 million Palestinians from their own place of living and converting Gaza into a playground for the rich, a new Riviera for Trump and his friends. We will never, never allow that to happen. Now, I work in the U.S. Senate, so I am around people who are able to talk more and say less than any group of human beings in the history of the world. So when we talk about where we want to go as a nation, we have got to talk with some specificity, not in general terms. And what I'm begging of you is when you hear candidates who want your vote, be tough on them. Ask them hard questions. Are they unequivocally prepared to reject corporate PAC funding? At a time when billionaires have enormous power in both parties, are they prepared to work vigorously to overturn Citizens United? Today in America, the top wealthiest person in this country, if you can believe it, owns more wealth than the bottom 53% of households. You got that? One guy. Top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 93%. CEOs now make 350 times more than their average workers. So these people on top, they are very religious people. But it's a strange kind of religion. You know, all of the major religions on earth speak in one way or another about doing unto others as you would like them to do unto you, right? Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever. Kind of that's the heart and soul of many major religions. What the religion of these oligarchs are is greed, greed, and more greed. And that greed is destroying our country. We got to stand up to it and end it. So it is not just about not giving them massive tax breaks that Trump wants. It's about telling these large corporations and billionaires they are going to start paying their fair share of taxes. All over America, workers want to join unions. And they want to join unions because they know that when you're in a union, you can negotiate decent wages, working conditions, and benefits. But employers know that too. And they're making it harder and harder for workers to join unions. That's why we need to pass legislation that punishes any employer who denies workers the constitutional right to form a union. Here in Pennsylvania and in many parts of this country, there are workers earning starvation wages. Millions of workers all over America. Shamefully, the federal minimum wage remains at $7.25 an hour. Can you believe that? Nobody in America can live on $7.25 an hour. That is why we got to raise that federal minimum wage to at least $17 an hour. As I mentioned, I was in Harrisburg yesterday talking to some kids, and many of them want to be able to go to college, go to graduate school. A young lady wanted to be a pediatrician. Somebody wanted to be a psychologist. Others wanted to be construction workers, get the training they need to do the work this country desperately needs. But they were all worried about whether or not they could afford to go to college and the huge kind of debt they would assume if they did go to college. We need the best educated workforce in the world. We need more doctors, we need more nurses, we need more mental health counselors, we need more electricians, sheet metal workers, carpenters. Young people should not have to go into a lifetime of debt in order to get the education they need and our country needs from them. %22 of seniors in America, the richest country on earth, are living on $15,000 a year or less. Can you believe that? Try being a senior living on $15,000. Try being anybody living on $15,000. Some Republicans want to cut Social Security. We are not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security by lifting the cap on taxable income. The United States of America today is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. We spend over $14,000 per person on health care, and yet we got 85 million Americans uninsured, underinsured. Over 60,000 die each year because they can't get to a doctor on time. The function of health care is not to make billions for drug companies and insurance companies. The function of a rational health care system is to provide quality care to every man, woman, and child. We're going to do that through a Medicare for all single-payer program. And all over this country, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and all locations, we are suffering a major housing crisis. You got 20 million people spending 50% or more of their limited incomes on housing. You got 800,000 people sleeping out on the streets. Instead of spending $1 trillion on the military, how about building 5 million units of low-income and affordable housing? So, brothers and sisters, this is a difficult moment in American history. But we have had difficult moments in our history before, and I have every confidence that if we are prepared to reject what Trump and his friends want to do, and that is divide us up, get us to hate each other for whatever reason, the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our sexual orientation. If we stand together around an agenda that speaks for working people, there is nothing that can stop us. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, the oligarchs, they are enormously powerful. They have unlimited amounts of money. They control the political process. They own the media. They own the economy. That's a lot of power. But what I believe at the end of the day, and I'm not a PhD in mathematics, but I do know that 99% is a hell of a larger number than 1%. So we got a lot of work in front of us. We really do. And this rally is just a small part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you and others to start running for office. We need candidates from school board to Congress. We need help in growing the trade union movement. We need organizations on campus dealing with climate and other important issues. So let today be the beginning, not the end. Let us go forward. And in these very, very difficult times, make sure that our grandchildren and those who come after them look back at this moment and say, we stood up, we had the courage, we took on authoritarianism, and we won. Thank you.